Hi Dave, are you there?
Hi, Mo.
I need to ask you about strategist choice. What we're going to be doing next
Oh,
week.
for the next 2 weeks. I'm just cooking at the moment. If you don't mind talking to me while I'm cooking, great, I can talk to you right now.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's take it on top then, Dave. What is strategy as choice? What are we trying to
Well,
cover there?
hang on, Mo. Do you mind if I just start cooking
Keep cooking, mate.
first?
What are you cooking? What are you cooking?
Yeah, I'm actually making paella.
Paella. I'm gonna take some notes.
Yeah, so
What do I need for?
I've got some chicken and some prawns, um, some paella rice. Are you taking your notes, are you?
I did the last thing you told me to do on the Stratman
uh,
chat.
some chorizo, a pepper, and some smoked paprika. So, if you don't mind, I'll start actually preparing this.
You can definitely prepare that. So Dave,
So,
in terms of in terms of why you're doing that, then Dave, strategy as choice.
yeah.
What are the students likely? What are the key ideas that they like to come across?
Okay, well, strategy choice, it's all Michael Porter's ideas. Yeah, so Michael Porter dominates this perspective on strategy. And remember, Michael Porter came from that economics background and has this view that what you own as a business doesn't really give you competitive advantage. So for Porter, it's all about what you do with the things you have, the things you own, the things you possess. And so it's the activities that are important for Michael Porter. He really starts off by saying that the most important thing a firm does to gain competitive advantage is to make a choice. So, for example, if you're deciding what to cook,
Yeah, yeah,
I've made a choice to cook paella.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't chosen to cook something else, but anyone could copy me in terms of making that choice. Now, you could have decided to make paella tonight. There's nothing to stop you doing the same thing.
I could literally take the recipe off you now and do exactly the same thing,
Exactly. So Paul
or at
says
least imitate it.
it's more than just making the choice of a position in the market. You also need to, in that choice, there needs to be a alignment of the organisation and all the activities in the organisation to that
Right.
choice. So that
So it's not about just doing something; it's about doing something that is all like aligned together.
yeah, that's right. So if someone does want to copy you, then they have to match that alignment.
Okay. So
Yeah.
basically, if they're cooking, gotta have it at the right temperature,
So you've got to do exactly the right same things in the right
ingredients.
order.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a recipe. You need to
yeah.
follow that recipe or know it yourself
In the
to
stages that it's supposed to be
indeed.
made. Yeah.
So it's all aligned to making that paella. Um, so hang on, I'm just going to stir these. I'm just frying up the onions at the moment.
Go on then. Let you do that a second.
Also, I need to chop up this pepper.
Onions and then pepper. Okay.
Now, that basic idea was where Porter was in the 1970s, 1980s. That's an awful long time ago. And at that point, he said that the choices you had were about whether you're going to be differentiated or whether you're going to have cost leadership.
Yeah.
So envisaging just two choices at the very beginning, and then he added a couple more to that. But to be honest, though, in the current complex world in which we live, just having 2 or 4 strategic positions to choose from, well, yeah, that doesn't fit the complexity we see today. So in the 1990s, Porter revisited that space of competitive advantage and went further in terms of saying, actually, there's more positions out there that you could occupy. Now in 1996, and the Ricardo Green and the guys going to be doing the What is Strategy paper, he introduced a range of more defined positions. But since then, he's gone even further. So he said that there are many positions out there that might provide you advantage, but you can't just narrow it down to a few defined, named positions. So what he's saying is you need to make choices on 3 dimensions. So deciding, in the value proposition, as he calls it, this is a specific use of those words for Porter. He's saying you need to make distinct choices on which customers you're going to serve and which not. And then a separate choice is what of their needs are you going to serve, and inherent in that is what you're not going to serve, and then what relative price position you're occupying. So we're saying that firms need to make choices on those 3 dimensions, or at least some of them. And then you've got a chance of that choice being a bit different from what others are making. But he says you have to go a bit further than that. You can't just rely on making the choice. There are more what he calls lines of defence that you need to adopt, or need to put in place. So to stop competitors from copying you. Yeah?
Okay, so so far, tell me what you're cooking. So I've got the onions and the peppers with the oil.
Well, I'm not going to put the peppers in yet, but the reason I'm chopping everything up first is so when I come to cook the chicken, I won't have to use a different knife.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah.
Chicken and
That will be called Operation Efficiency.
You don't bother about that then. I mean, you're probably all right because you just
No comment.
You just throw it in to cook, aren't you? So,
I'm just beginning to cook, yeah.
killing me.
So far, I understand that 1970s Porter came with people need to have a position, and he's talked about cost leadership or differentiation, and then later he rethought the idea of competitive advantage in terms of coming to having quite a few positions. It's not just enough to have one, and you said they can make a choice regarding this 3 sort of key questions: what need, who their customers are, and not, what needs they're going to serve for those customers and not, and what price they're going to serve it at and not. And by sort of using those 3 questions as a guide, they can probably figure out, what their position is. That's sort of and that's what he terms as the value proposition, is the term that.
Means by strategic position.
Yeah. So tell me about then the lines of defense then, Dave. You said that it's not enough just to have the choice that you've made.
Yeah, just putting the chicken in, you just it hits a bit for the moment.
I can smell it from here, Dave. Smell it from here.
So lines of defence. So if you think about a castle or a fortress of some kind, usually they're not just one wall around it, because the attackers can breach that one wall, but usually there's several lines of defence you have to get through. And it just makes it harder for your position in the castle to get overrun by the enemy.
Anyone else?
So the principle here is much the same. So having decided this position, you'll try and think, well, how can that position be defensible? What are those lines of defence that stop others from doing the same thing? So the first one that Porter talks about is that you must need a tailored value chain to deliver that value proposition. Okay, so if you could do that value proposition with any old value chain, then everyone can do it. So there's going to be something in the way in which you do activities, or the activities you do in your value chain
Yeah.
that is required to deliver that strategic position.
Cool. So in terms of this cooking analogy, that would mean like perhaps you get your chicken from a very special place that no one else can get it from or something. Or you got a specific secret ingredients that no one else can get to, or very difficult to get to because you saw some yourself or something like that. Would that be an example?
No, I mean that would stray into resources, to sort of what's the special chicken you've got. It's what you do with the chicken. So there has to be a way in which I cut up the chicken.
Okay, or you stir the chicken.
Different from the way I stir it with a little flick.
So the tailored value chain is about how you make up the activities.
How you do the activities.
So if you do it with the dance, and no one else does it with the dance, that could be a thing.
Absolutely. And no, I'm not going to dance.
I tried, guys. I tried. Goodness. So that's the first line of defense, Dave. A tailored value chain, and I think we'll obviously we'll discuss that in one of the workshops anyway. What's the second line of defense, Dave?
Obviously, the second line of defense is trade-off choices.
Okay. So trade-off is what I'm not going to do.
Well, by choosing one thing, it means you're not able to do something else.
You sacrifice something because of this.
Yes. Yeah. Now, even though that other thing you could do is valuable, there's some good customers over there, you are making a real choice that, no, I know it's a viable market over there, but I've chosen to do this one. And in making that choice, it stops you doing the other one.
You can't do both.
You can't do both. And so either that trade-off choice might be in your value proposition, or it might be something you've chosen to do in your value chain. So there's trade-off choices in either of those two things.
You're deliberately cutting off certain paths because you want a different path.
Yeah, and so if you think about it, for a competitor to do the same thing, they'd have to make the same trade-off choice. And if they're already operating in the other market, it's very difficult for them to turn their backs on their existing customers. There are companies that have tried, so people like some of the American airline companies like Continental tried to match Southwest Airlines and introduced, or Continental Light, and would do everything the same, but they kept one foot in both camps. So split their resources, made decisions that were sort of good for sort of both of them, and as a result, they weren't as good in either of those two positions. And that was one of the reasons Continental Airlines went into bankruptcy. Yeah, because they just weren't serving the customers in either of those two positions as well as they could do, what others were. Yeah. So that's...
A trade-off would be what in our cooking analogy then, Dave?
Well, I have made a trade-off choice. I have chosen to cook a chicken dish. So...
You're not going to make a meat dish.
I'm not cooking a pork curry, or I'm not cooking roast beef. If I decide to do chicken, I've said, no, I'm not doing the others. No, I can't do it.
Right, and you said there's 3 lines of defense. There's one more?
Yeah, so there's a third line of defense. Well, there's a third line of defense, which is all about, there's an activity system that's fitting the delivery of that value proposition. So it's not just 1 or 2 activity choices that you've made, it's a whole system of activity choices. So it might be easy to copy one of those choices, or find a way one of those choices. No, it maybe is 75% chance you'll get it right. Yeah? If you have to copy 2 choices, and there's a high chance of getting both of them right, 75% chance of getting both right, well, there's still a 50% chance that the competitor will manage to match both of them. But if it's 100, if it's 1,000 choices, the chance of getting everything right working together gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that activity system is stopping others from copying it.
So it's because it's so complex. Is that the reason? Because it's so complex.
You have to get everything right to work as well as the company that's already doing it. And then Porter talks in there of different orders of fit.
Okay.
So
within the activity system.
So first order of fit is simply simple consistency. So everything's lined up to that value proposition. So all those choices line up to the value proposition. So that's difficult. Not many companies get to that level. Then second order fit is reinforcing fit. And this is where those activity choices don't just line up, they work together to make the whole worth more than the sum of the parts. So they reinforce one another and so make each other more effective.
Yeah.
Even more complexity, and the fact they're working together, I mean, you can't just take one or two elements out of it, they're all working together. Then he talks about the third order of fit, which is optimization, optimizing fit. And this is the firm has got to this wonderful system, but it's still not happy. It is constantly fine-tuning it.
Even making it more complex, more intricate.
So, yeah, and adapting it. And in that, it's not just dialing stuff up. You're dialing stuff down because the fit of the system is better if that bit is perhaps working slightly less effective. So the whole works better. So I just need to put some rice in here.
Yeah, I'll leave the other one.
So in these sort of lines of defense, you said about first of all having a tailored value chain, and that's really important for everything to work together, and then having a trade-off, as in by doing something you're sacrificing doing something else, and then you talked about all the activities that a company does, they actually do it in a way that they don't make one sort of choice in one activity. They do an array of activities that are lined up together. That makes it even more harder for a company to copy. And if you go drill down into what Porter means by activity system, you talked about three orders of fit. One was the first order, simple consistency, in terms of just having the ability to duplicate, hundreds of different activities. Second was the reinforcing, which was activities that I think complement each other almost. They go back on each other and they're really helpful for one another. And then you said about optimizing, which is tweaking the systems and constantly dialing up and also dialing down because you're trying to get the optimum level of activity. And that in itself is like a 3D way of being more complex and trying to make it even harder for anyone to try to jump in. So it's like, they can see what we're doing, but try duplicating that.
Exactly. Imagine how hard it is to imitate and therefore overcome that competitive advantage that someone has. It's very hard.
That's quite helpless, isn't it? As a company on the outside going, look how beautiful they've managed to do this, and you just it's so hard to duplicate. What would be a good example of that, Dave?
Well, IKEA is a good example of that. So everyone knows what IKEA does, but for 30 years, no one's copied them.
Because of the intricacies of how they do it so well.
In which everything works together and is designed to fit. Some very clear trade-off choices they've made in terms of which customers and which needs.
So yeah, so they're not going for people who want anything done bespoke. They're going for cheap but stylish, right?
Yeah.
Cheap but stylish. That's basically it. But they'll make you hurt yourself and do the furniture yourself. and just to add a level of complexity, all the IKEA furniture is unpronounceable. I mean, I confess, Dave, my living room is IKEA. I'll show you on my. Shall I show you on here? Let me try to show you this as a.
I'm just putting about half a pint of hot water into the paella.
So Dave, I confess this is my IKEA living room.
Yeah.
It's just basically very clean, very modern. I couldn't care less. I love to buy a piece of unpronounceable furniture. I really do. I love, uh,
But Mo, you know a lot about IKEA, don't you?
I love IKEA. I used to work there when I was a kid, even. The one in Bristol. Yeah, I was a security guard. My feet ached forever. Painful just standing up all day.
So you've seen this firsthand.
Yeah, but I never appreciated how, because the biggest thing, like companies like IKEA, when they achieve such, level of intricacy in the activities, it looks so simple. It really does look straightforward. I think, well, why isn't anybody else able to copy that? But then the level of intricacy is that they have even designed the way they pack their furniture, even the design of the furniture itself is such that it is good for the customer because that's what style is appealing to them. Yeah, the furniture itself can be changed in so many different colors and ways. No two pieces of furniture need ever look alike, and yet each individual piece is packed in such a way that helps for their internal operations, helps in terms of how it all works together. And IKEA, even the showroom, when you go in there, deliberately so, they made hardly any windows. I don't know if any people notice. And they deliberately get you to wander around and buy more than you actually ever wanted, because they want to allure you to the whole. They want you to buy on an emotional level. So they've thought about how the marketing behavior would be. So they deliberately make you go around the whole store and not find a toilet and just make you want to just buy it just to get out. And then they have the audacity to make you pick up your own furniture in the warehouse and stack it up for yourself and hurt yourself.
Customers are happy to do it because they get good furniture at a low price. You know, in that whole design, IKEA have taken out costs as well as giving you the product you want, or the customers who want to go there, giving the product they want.
Those three questions. So, you said about the choice of strategy, the Porter. So, in terms of the choice of customer that they're looking for is people who want a style at low cost. Is that the?
Well, so they tend to go for people living in smaller houses or flats. So
Yes.
they don't got a lot of space, and they're on a budget.
Okay.
Okay, and then
And-
their
and-
needs
their
are
needs.
for, well, we want a bit of style in here. We want a bit of stylish furniture,
Yeah, yeah.
and we want a whole range of, we want a one-stop shop for all these items for home. I don't want to get this done. And in terms of relative price position, well, they have gone for the lower end. They haven't gone right to the bottom, but they're still at a lower affordable price. You can't really say they're a cost leader in that regard, although they probably are, but they're not really deciding that's their position. They're saying, well, actually, there's a point here where we can offer customers what they want, our customers.
Yeah.
And they'll say, and they will say, well, they don't mind anyone going and buying from them, but if you're not happy with it, hang on, I want help. I want to have someone to show me
They're
this.
not going to help you.
They're not going to help you. Have you tried to find someone in IKEA to ask the question? But even if you do, what can they say?
Okay.
Well, that's it. Here we are. That's what it looks like. That's the size of it.
I took my dad to IKEA to go along with me. He was so angry. He goes, "How come nobody's coming up to me and asking me what I want? How come I have to put the stuff in the car? How come no one's, offering me a cup of tea and to take a seat?" I said, "No, no, Dad, we have to go around the whole place." Like, are you insane? He goes, "I'm never coming back to this place." And clearly, my dad was not their target customer. Clearly.
IKEA would be quite happy if you bought something, but they're not going to go out their way to serve your dad.
I mean, has anyone ever seen the refund part of IKEA? It's one thing in the corner and the queue's a mile. Because actually, it's not in their best interest to make it a big deal there. They'll return the stuff, but it's like, it was cheap anyway, mate. You know what I mean? So it's like they
saw what it was.
yeah, get angry. Like, what are you gonna do? So I think hopefully the students appreciate that everything that IKEA is doing is aimed at that specific end there, and the contrast will be going to something like a DFS where they immediately sit you down and there's like 5 salespeople that'll turn up and give you the bespoke, and you have to wait 8 weeks for the furniture, and you choose everything, and then you pay ahead, and they're smooching you, and all this sort of stuff is very high end, or even like Oak Furniture World or something like that, where it's like
the best example I found is Sofa Workshop. So go into Sofa Workshop and effectively you bespoke design your sofa. And then it's made to your specification. There's some modularization around it, but it's made to your specifications. Now, what material do you want? Do you want this shape and what cushions and all the rest of it?
and they get you to try it out and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so it's very different, and it's far more expensive. It's several times.
So they're definitely not low cost.
No, but that's aimed at a different customer group. And I'd imagine, in that it seems Sofa Workshop have chosen a different strategic position. Equally viable position, and I don't know enough about Sofa Workshop, but it looks as though at least they're aligned themselves to that chosen position. Both IKEA and Sofa Workshop are in the furniture industry.
So the same industry, same market.
They both have competitive positions which are different. They've chosen to be different. Now, and within that space, certainly IKEA demonstratively has sustainable competitive advantage. 30 years and it hasn't been a competitor to them.
There's not been a comparative rival to that. And that would be a sort of a classic example of what Porter's saying in the strategist choice units that we're talking about. Exactly. In terms of the position that they're having, in terms of the choices that they're making, in terms of the lines of defense that they're creating. And I think that's a incredible example. Dave, could we use Porter's ideas in other industries as well? Is it possible?
Well, first thing I say is that to achieve that, you do need strategic continuity. You can't keep changing your mind. Can you imagine what happens if you change your mind, getting that alignment? You can't do it. But other industries, there are great examples, and in the case study, we start to look at a sector where there is a player that has done the same thing with Southwest Airlines. So Southwest Airlines came in and said, this is our position. Low-cost carrier. They invented the idea of low-cost carrier. Indeed, the companies we see over here, like Ryanair, copied Southwest Airlines. But again, Southwest Airlines has made very clear activity choices that align with their value proposition. Now, other entrants have come into that market, and Jetblue is one of those. And Jetblue is the case study we are going to look at. Now, Jetblue have made a choice to be in a different position to Southwest Airlines. Still sort of low-cost carrier, but I'll leave the students to decide, well, what is that position and what are those choices in the value proposition?
Excellent.
And then to look at whether or not they've aligned their activity system. So the first week, we're just looking at that alignment and value chain. In the second week, we go into Porter's later work, the whole idea of lines of defense. And there we look at an interesting decision they made in the 2010s, where they are looking to introduce something called Mint. Now, Mint is a business class onto their airplanes. And so the question that students will be looking at is whether or not that is a good move from the perspective of Michael Porter or not. So that's what we're analysing. So using Porter's ideas, lines of defence, decide if JetBlue had those, and then what would be the effect of that, of taking this decision to do Mint.
Thank you for that. I'm going to let you have your dinner.
Well, it's got cooked for half an hour now, or 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Brilliant.
So I'll post a picture of what comes out at the end.
Put it in our strategy chat.
At the very end, I need to put some prawns over the top just for the last 2 or 3 minutes, just to heat up the already cooked prawns, and then I'll show you what it looks like.
Fantastic. I'm gonna have to I'll have to step up my cooking game. Thank you, Dave. All right, I can't. I'm gonna go fish and chips, beans and Heinz beans in the microwave. That's what's gonna happen. Okay, all right. See you soon, man. Cheers.
Going on in here for a moment. Okay, we're getting there. yeah, looks like time to put the prawns in. So just put the prawns in for the last few minutes. So we just heat up. Cover it over a bit longer. You'll notice I haven't actually stirred it. That's what they do in Spain with paella. They let the bottom of the paella slightly burn. Typical approach to take that. Although I'll probably get strung up by the Spanish people I know, because making paella with chicken and chorizo isn't really traditional. But anyway, it's tasty. So I reckon we're probably pretty much there now. So let's take off the heat and serve it up. This will probably keep it going for a few days, so I'll eat some now and then freeze some of the rest. So there we are. Paella made while talking about Michael Porter.